let's talk about Tom and Jerry, the newest feature-length film in this franchise of Tom and Jerry. Just came out on HBO MAX and is also in select theaters. I'm sure you guys probably know. But Tom and Jerry is a cartoon that started back all the way in the 1940s and has gotten multiple iterations on different cartoon series. Actually has a series that's newer that started in 2014, and it looks like it's still going on, called The Tom and Jerry Show. And they've had multiple feature-length films, but this is the first time that they are in live action. All of the human characters are live action, but all of the animals are in cartoon animated. The movie stars Tom the Cat, Jerry the Mouse, respectfully, and Chloe Grace Moritz and Michael Pena. The movie follows Chloe's character, who finds a way to get a job at this hotel, and she gets hired during the preparation of this huge wedding that's going on, and the hotel has a mouse problem, Jerry, and she takes the lead on trying to find a way to get rid of Jerry, and she enlists the help of Tom to get rid of Jerry, and what could go wrong with that. I'm gonna talk pros and then cons for this movie, because I have both. So I think we can all agree that we didn't have high expectations for this movie. Like, that we've seen this before, where studios bring back old franchises from the past, trying to reinvent them so the next generation can enjoy it. Because Tom and Jerry has been entertaining for generations since its release, and I know I grew up with them, and I loved watching their old cartoons. So you never really know what you're going to get. Usually these movies fail to live up to their expectations or live up to the potential of the property. And unfortunately, we kind of have that going on here, but for pros' sakes, the only thing that I really wanted from this movie was Tom chasing Jerry in crazy ways, and Jerry being able to outsmart him, and Tom failing miserably, but continuously trying to catch Jerry. We got a lot of that, and that was great. That's all I really wanted. But you can't really expect a feature-length film to just be that. So there's the human characters. A big thing was the fact that neither Tom or Jerry spoke like they did originally. They did change them in recent years during the animated feature-length films where they started talking, and it just didn't work. And I'm really glad that they stayed true to that. So I appreciated that. And I found out that all of the sound effects, or all of the sounds and grunts and yells that Tom and Jerry make, are all from the original recordings from the 40s. I didn't really catch on to that until towards the end. I heard an iconic Tom scream. So I definitely appreciated that aspect of the movie. And I think overall, it's a kid's movie plot. It's not anything crazy. It's pretty generic and predictable. But I think it would be a fun movie to watch with a family, with the little ones. It's an enjoyable, fun film. I know that I enjoyed movies like this when I was younger, so I'm sure I would have enjoyed this movie. So I would recommend it to those who have little ones to enjoy it. So I guess I'm gonna move on to my cons, because that with these kinds of movies, they always feel this need to have these human characters. So a big problem with this movie, a big chunk of this movie, is the human characters and their story, and watching Chloe try to work at this hotel and get rid of Jerry. It's like she's the main character of the movie, and Tom and Jerry are secondary characters. Like they're a big part of the movie, but they're not. They're kind of almost sidelined, almost. So I think that's where this movie really starts to fail, I think, because all we really want is Tom and Jerry, and we're kind of stuck watching this predictable, generic plot unveil. And even though I love Chloe as an actress, and Michael Pena is awesome, they kind of just bring their minimal of acting for this level of a movie. so it's not anything crazy. And all of these characters, you don't really care about them. You don't really care for their story or whether they're gonna succeed, because it's predictable. You like going in, you're like, okay, well, this is probably gonna happen and stuff like that. It kind of all works out the way that you think it would. And it's an hour and 41 minutes long. That's a really long runtime for a Tom and Jerry movie. I would have been perfectly fine with like the bare minimum of a feature length film, like really like 1 hour and like 30 minutes at like the most. I think it was just a little too long for a movie of this concept. And the biggest thing was, even though it was somewhat true to the original cartoons, seeing Tom and Jerry in 3D moving around a room with different camera angles, it just doesn't feel like Tom and Jerry. It just was really weird. And a big thing of the old cartoons was the instrumental music that was played, because they didn't talk. The way that they expressed the effects and the aspects of the story, and like if someone's running really fast, the music starts to hypen up and act as if it is the effect of running, and that's a big part of the cartoon. So that not being present definitely, I think, harms the story as well. It just doesn't really feel like Tom and Jerry, unfortunately. Yeah, after I finished watching the movie, HBO MAX has most of the original Tom and Jerry cartoons. So we sat down and we watched a couple of those episodes. We watched the episode Hiccup Pup from the 1960s, and I think I enjoyed watching that way more than the movie. I laughed more. I was entertained more. I had more fun with that, and that was just a 6-minute episode. So if I had to like tell you, should you just rewatch an old cartoon from Tom and Jerry or watch the feature-length film, I would probably lean towards just, if you want some Tom and Jerry, watch the old stuff, because that's where the true genius of the show is, and where you're gonna be entertained the most. I think it all comes down to the fact that I don't think Tom and Jerry was meant to be portrayed in this format. It was made to be a 6 to 10 minute cartoon with a simple plot and just filled with gags, not meant to be a feature-length film with a runtime of over an hour and 30 minutes. I think that's where this movie has most of its difficulties, because it's just difficult to find a way to make Tom and Jerry fit this format, and I don't think it ever really was, and I don't think we'll ever get to the point where they'll be able to figure out a good way to bring us a Tom and Jerry movie. Maybe one day, but I don't think they accomplished it with this movie. So yeah, overall, I find this movie it's okay. It's not terrible. It had fun aspects, and it was entertaining, but I think it was just a little too long and too focused on the human characters, unfortunately. Now, a movie that I will recommend, because I was sitting here, I was like, what kind of movie can I recommend that's kind of like Tom and Jerry? And I was like, okay, so the two movies that came to mind was Space Jam and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I think we can all agree that this is a classic movie. I recently watched this like a year or two ago, I think. But it's brought to us by Steven Spielberg, and it's directed by Robert Zemeckis. He's the guy behind the Back to the Future trilogy, and he's done plenty of other things. So you know you're going to get a great movie. I think this movie did it best where it crossed the live action and animated, and I think it did it best even though it came out 30 years ago. I think they did it best. It was a good balance between an adult movie and a kid's movie. It had both aspects and it blended really well. Watching this live action detective help Roger Rabbit prove his innocence of a murder that he was framed for. So it's a crime story, but you are following the story of these animated characters, and I don't know. I think they did a great job with this. And if you're looking for a movie similar to the style of Tom and Jerry, I would check this one out, and then probably rewatch Space Jam because the new one's coming out this year, so you might as well give that one a watch again. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Tom and Jerry. It is streaming on HBO Max for a limited time. I think probably just till the end of the month, and then you'll probably have to wait till it comes out on Blu-ray. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening. And you guys go and enjoy some movies. And have a good one.